block north of Hollywood Boulevard. And so that was our street. And so we would go down there and look at try to look at all the movie stars going into a premiere, hanging over the ropes and all of that. And I'll never forget when Linda Darnell, who was a beautiful actress in the 40s and 50s, and she was my favorite, she and Betty Grable.
Carol Burnett spent decades making the whole country laugh. With The Carol Burnett Show, she became a symbol of warmth and kindness, a woman fans believed could never hold a grudge. But in her 90s, Carol dropped a truth bomb no one saw coming. Behind that radiant smile, there were men she truly despised. Men who embarrassed her in public, belittled her behind closed doors, and even tried to snatch credit for her genius work. These weren't small feuds, these were deep scars that never healed. So who were the men bold enough to cross America's comedy queen, and what drove her from grace to lifelong resentment? Brace yourself, this story gets wild.
My grandmother and I would hit Hollywood Boulevard and maybe sometimes see as many as 8 movies a week because there'd be double features stuff, and we'd get in 4 of them on the weekend. And all of them, I was very naive. Nicky and Judy, Nelson and Jeanette, Betty Grable, Fred and Ginger, all of these, and then even the comedies. And the bad guys got it, the good guys won.
First up, Marlon Brando, the Hollywood legend who crossed a line that Carol never forgave. We're talking that Brando, the powerhouse from The Godfather, the name everyone knew. Somehow, this superstar managed to insult Carol so badly that she swore she'd never be in the same room with him again, ever. People still can't believe it when they hear this part of her story. They say, wait, Brando? What could he possibly have done? Well, here's what actually went down, and it's even worse than the gossip. It all started in the summer of 1972, right after The Godfather turned Brando into Hollywood royalty. One night, while Carol was fast asleep, her housekeeper rushed in, shaking her awake. The phone just wouldn't stop ringing. What was waiting on the other end of that call would change how she saw Brando forever. Carol picked up the phone, still half asleep, and the first thing she heard was a slow, confident voice dripping with amusement. She knew that tone instantly.
And the manager just says, "What's going on here?" And this woman said, "She won't let us sit down. We want to go to sit down." And I said, "But Mr. Batten," that was his name, Batten. I said, "It's Hitchcock." You know,
Carol, this is Marlon Brando. I've been watching you. That name alone could freeze a room. At first, she laughed it off, thinking it had to be some Hollywood prank. Brando was famous for teasing people, and everyone in the business loved doing impressions of him. But then, he dropped a line that made her blood run cold. You'd be even better if you loosened up like the actresses I've spent time with. That wasn't flattery. It was pure arrogance, the kind of comment only a powerful man could say, convinced he was untouchable. Carol tried to end the call gracefully, but her hands were shaking when she hung up. She couldn't believe what had just happened. The real shocker came the next morning. A reporter from The Hollywood Reporter reached out to her publicist, claiming Brando had been praising Carol's femininity in a late-night chat. Someone had leaked the call. Carol was blindsided, humiliated, and before she could even process it, Brando twisted the knife. When a journalist asked him about it, he smirked and said, "She took it too seriously. Comedians are sensitive women."
there was no gray area, you know. And so I had this naive quality when I went to New York, thinking, well, I'm not going to get disappointed if I don't get the job right away, because neither did Mickey and Judy, you know. So it was okay. I'll go and do something else, you know. And
that smug answer made everything worse. That was the moment Carol realized this wasn't admiration, it was mockery. He wasn't flirting, he was turning her into a joke. Just 2 days later, she confided to a close friend, "I felt small, and I've spent my whole life fighting not to feel small." From that day forward, Carol set a firm rule with her PR team. Never again would she share a single stage or headline with Marlon Brando. If Brando's attending, I'm not. Those were Carol's exact words, and she meant every bit of it. For the next 30 years, she stuck to that rule without exception. Now on to number 2, Cary Grant, the so-called Hollywood gentleman who publicly humiliated her. Most people can't even believe his name appears on Carol Burnett's hate list. The man was the picture of charm, polished suits, perfect diction, that dazzling movie star smile. But Carol never forgot the night he crushed her confidence in front of the most powerful people in the business. It was 1968 at a glamorous Beverly Hilton gala, one of those elite events where everyone pretends to adore each other. Carol had just become America's comedic sweetheart, the queen of sketch comedy. Cary Grant was there to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award, seated at the center table like Hollywood royalty.
So, and I remember once I was at an audition, and it was narrowed down to another girl and me. And she got the part. And I just said to myself, it was her time. It wasn't my time. It was her time to get that job. My time will come.
After the ceremony, Carol, glowing and relaxed, decided to walk over and congratulate him, completely unaware she was about to walk straight into a storm. A director sitting next to Grant tried to make small talk, teasing, "Cary, you've seen Carol's show, right? She's got the whole country laughing." Without missing a beat, Grant smirked and fired back, loud enough for half the room to hear. Laughing at what? Waving her arms around, making faces? I don't understand why people find that appealing. The room went quiet. Carol froze on the spot. She wasn't thin-skinned. She'd handled hecklers and critics before, but this was different. A screen legend, one of the biggest names in Hollywood, mocking her craft in public. That night, she couldn't stop wondering, why did he have to do that? What made him think tearing her down made him look superior? Carol held her poise. She always did. No matter what, she refused to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her break. But as she turned to walk away, Cary Grant leaned toward Elizabeth Taylor and whispered the line that cemented his place on Carol Blacklist forever. "She's not a real actress. She's a housewife who got lucky." That wasn't wit. That was cruelty wrapped in charm. It was a dagger hidden behind a polished smile. Carol didn't clap back. She didn't need to. The whole room heard it, and Hollywood couldn't stop talking about that moment for months. Later, she confided to a close friend, "I didn't hate him for disliking my comedy. I hated that he said it to humiliate me." Those words said it all. 2 years later, Paramount came knocking with an offer, a musical comedy co-starring Cary Grant himself. Her team thought it was a dream opportunity, a career-making move, but Carol didn't even blink before saying no. Every single time the topic came up, she repeated the same 7 words like a mantra: "I won't work with a man who belittles women." Brando never apologized, and Carol never softened. She wasn't the type to forget an insult dressed as sophistication. Now on to number 3, Lorne Michaels, the power player who kept Carol locked out for half a century. What could have caused that kind of tension between 2 comedy icons who never even shared a stage? The answer isn't pretty, and it sure wasn't about professional courtesy. Their feud was born from one brutal phrase Carol overheard about him, and from that day, she never forgave it. It all started in 1975, the year Saturday Night Live exploded onto NBC. Carol was still ruling CBS with the Carol Burnett Show, and critics across the country were saying the same thing. The comedy crown had a challenger. If anyone deserves to host SNL, it's Carol. That was the buzz in every writer's room back in the day. Fans wanted it. Critics wanted it. She was the queen of sketch comedy. But somehow, that dream never made it to air. And it wasn't because Carol said no or had scheduling issues. The truth was way more personal and way more brutal. Behind closed doors at NBC during a pitch session for SNL's 2nd season, one editor spoke up plainly and said, "What about Carol Burnett? She'd be historic." Everyone in the room seemed to agree, until Lorne Michaels himself leaned back, smirked, and dropped a line that would spread through NBC like wildfire. "Not her. She's the face of old television. Over my dead body." Harsh, absolutely, but he didn't stop there. According to one staffer, he added another cutting remark. Her kind of comedy makes us look outdated. SNL isn't a retirement home. Those words didn't just sting, they scorched. Within days, the comment reached Carol's ears, but instead of lashing out, she went still, ice cold and composed just like always. She didn't call him, didn't demand a retraction, didn't go public. She simply told her team privately, "I spent my whole life opening doors for women in comedy. He slammed one shut without even meeting me." And just like that, the silent feud began. Over the years, it only got stranger. NBC tried to mend fences during SNL's 10th anniversary special, suggesting Carol be honored among the greats. But Lorne shot the idea down himself with a handwritten note that purportedly said, "Not relevant, not funny, not happening." Carol never saw the note firsthand, but she didn't need to. The story reached her, and that was enough. From then on, she never spoke his name in interviews, never showed bitterness, just that quiet confidence that said she was done. And decades later, in 2023, when a reporter asked if she regretted never hosting Saturday Night Live, she smiled, calm and graceful as ever, and said, "They didn't need me, and I learned I didn't need them either." That quiet remark, "They didn't need me, and I didn't need them either," was Carol's version of a final punch. After that, there was no rebuilding anything with Lorne Michaels. Their paths were done crossing. Now, number 4, Harvey Corman, the trusted partner who shattered her heart on set. This one hits hard because Harvey wasn't just a co-star, he was family to her. He stands fourth on Carol Burnett's private list of men she quietly grew to resent. And what makes it so painful is that no one, not fans, not Hollywood, not even Carol herself, ever saw it coming. For years, audiences adored their chemistry. They were comedy magic, the duo that made people cry laughing every Saturday night. Hollywood insiders swore they were inseparable, the perfect creative pair. And Carol believed it too, until one afternoon in 1974, when Harvey let a bitterness slip that she never imagined existed. It happened during what should have been a normal rehearsal day at Studio 33. Nothing special, nothing dramatic. Petula Clark had just wrapped her run-through, the lighting crew was resetting, and Harvey was prepping for a sketch he had done 100 times before. Then, a small mistake changed everything. A simple lighting error darkened his mark, barely noticeable to anyone else, but for Harvey, something snapped. He slammed his script to the floor and barked at the crew, "How hard is it to do this right? I'm tired of cleaning up her mistakes." The words hit like a slap, and Carol heard every single one of them. He wasn't talking about a light, he was talking about her, his partner, his friend, the woman who had given him the spotlight that turned him into a household name. The room went dead silent. Carol didn't yell, didn't cry. She just stood there, frozen, not angry, but completely stunned. Carol walked toward him slowly, holding herself together with every ounce of strength she had. Her voice was calm, too calm, as she said softly, "Harvey, why would you speak to them like that?" But Harvey didn't back down. His voice rose, sharp and bitter, echoing through the studio. "Maybe I'm done being second on the Carol Burnett show." That one sentence cut deeper than any argument ever could. It exposed something Carol had never seen in him before: jealousy, real, raw resentment from the person she trusted most. The air in the room went heavy. Without another word, Carol turned away, walked straight to her dressing room, locked the door, and finally let the tears fall, quietly. 3 days later, Harvey came back with an apology, eyes down, voice trembling. He told her, "I forgot why I started comedy." And because Carol's nature was pure kindness, she forgave him. She always did. But deep down, something between them had cracked for good. Later, she confided in Vicki Lawrence, her closest ally on set, saying, "Forgiving him didn't fix what broke." The show went on, the laughs continued, but their friendship never really healed again. And now, number 5, Joe Hamilton, the husband who stole her work.
Joe ranked 5th on Carol Burnett's private list of men she could never fully forgive, because this betrayal wasn't from Hollywood. It came from inside her own home. The world saw Joe as her husband, her producer, her partner in building one of TV's most legendary shows. But behind the scenes, Carol discovered something that turned her world upside down. He'd been quietly rewriting her legacy without her knowledge or consent. It all began in 1982, long after their marriage had started to fall apart. During a routine paperwork review, Carol's lawyer spotted something strange, a clause that didn't belong. It was the first sign that Joe had been moving pieces behind the curtain, and that the woman America adored might have been fighting for her own name all along. Joe had secretly registered a brand new company, Hamilton Productions, and tucked under it several spin-off ideas taken straight from sketches on The Carol Burnett Show. One of them, Mama's Family, was based entirely on one of Carol's most beloved characters. But when the paperwork came through, her name was nowhere to be found. Not as co-owner, not as creator, not even as a contributor. Shocked, Carol confronted him in their CBS office, hoping it was some kind of mistake, maybe a misfiled credit. But Joe didn't deny a thing. He leaned back in his chair, folded his arms, and said the exact words she would later repeat to friends, word for word. "You're the talent. I'm the brain. I know how to handle business." That wasn't confidence. That was arrogance turned into betrayal. It was his way of admitting he'd been planning his financial escape route while still cashing in on her creativity. Carol told Vicki Lawrence later, "It felt like he took my heart and stamped a logo on it." That line said everything. But the worst part hadn't even hit yet. A few weeks later, Carol overheard 2 CBS employees whispering in the hallway about Joe's new life, a younger editor he'd been seen whining and dining at the Show House restaurant. Carol froze in disbelief, and it wasn't the cheating itself that broke her. It was realizing it wasn't new at all. The affair had been happening for years, while she was out there carrying the weight of everything. The show, the audience, their family. That night she went home, sat at her dining table in silence, and finally said the truth out loud. "I don't recognize the man I married." Not long after, the divorce papers were filed. Joe didn't back off. He went after the very thing that made Carol who she was, her work. He fought tooth and nail for ownership of her creations, insisting he deserved a share of the profits from the show she had built from the ground up. For Carol, it wasn't just a legal battle. It was the moment she realized even love could turn into business, and business could cut deeper than betrayal ever could. The court battle dragged on for nearly a year, a draining, exhausting fight that took everything out of Carol, both emotionally and professionally. Every hearing, every motion felt like reliving the betrayal all over again. By the time it ended, she wasn't just tired, she was changed. When Joe passed away in 1991, Carol made a quiet decision. She didn't attend the funeral. Instead, she sent a simple bouquet of white flowers with a note that read, "I wish you peace." But behind closed doors, she admitted something far more haunting. Some wounds don't heal with time. They just settle. Carol Burnett spent her life making the world laugh, her joy lighting up screens for generations. Yet behind that laughter, these 5 men left scars she never showed on camera. Stories of betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak that even fame couldn't erase. So, after hearing it all, which betrayal do you think cut her the deepest? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and join the conversation for more Untold Hollywood Truths.